I used to wake up already bracing for it. Not fear, just that slow roll in my stomach, like I'd stood up too fast inside my own body. The dizziness followed, a quiet tilting of the room. It always passed within an hour. By mid-morning, I would be steady again, smiling in meetings, answering emails, drinking coffee I probably shouldn't have trusted. The doctors were thorough: blood panels, cardiac screening, neurology consult. Each time the same polite shrug in medical language. Everything looks normal. Normal became its own accusation. If nothing was wrong, then perhaps I was exaggerating. Stress, age, hormones. I accepted those explanations because they required no action. The charity gala was on a Thursday evening. Crystal glassware, controlled laughter. I remember thinking the chandeliers felt too bright, like interrogation lights pretending to be elegant. I was standing near the silent auction table when it hit the familiar wave. Not violent, just enough to make the carpet feel unreliable. I steadied myself with a hand on the table's edge. That's when he spoke. "Take off those earrings if you want to stay alive." His voice wasn't theatrical. It was level, measured, as if he were advising me to step away from a wet floor sign. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was ridiculous. "Are you serious? My daughter gave these to me. They were small gold drops, nothing extravagant. She'd given them to me for my birthday 3 months ago. She'd fastened them herself, smiling like she was correcting something I'd been missing. They suit you," she'd said. "You never buy nice things for yourself." The man didn't smile back at my dismissal. "Gold-plated," he said. "If the plating process was rushed, the base metal could leach. Some compounds cause nausea, vertigo, worse over time." I rolled my eyes at the absurd specificity. "And you just walk around diagnosing strangers at fundraisers?" "I used to audit plating facilities," he replied. "You're pale. And you've been touching your neck for the last 5 minutes." I hadn't realized I was. "You don't have to believe me," he added. "Just stop wearing them for a week." There was no drama in his tone, no sales pitch. He left before I could decide whether to be offended. I kept the earrings on the rest of the night, because removing them would have meant admitting he'd unsettled me, and because they were from her. In the restroom mirror later, under the unforgiving fluorescent lights, I studied them more closely. Perfectly ordinary, innocent. I told myself I wouldn't let a stranger plant paranoia in me. But the next morning, I forgot to put them on. It was an accident. I was running late. The nausea never came. I didn't notice until midday. The morning after that, I wore them again. The dizziness returned before breakfast. It would have been easier if it were immediate, violent, obvious. Instead, it was subtle, just enough to doubt, just enough to rationalize. I said nothing to my daughter. She had been so proud of finding them. A pop-up artisan booth, she told me. Sustainable. Hand-finished. Limited batch. When I mentioned my symptoms weeks earlier, she'd waved a hand dismissively. "You're always stressed, Mom." "It's probably that." I hadn't liked how easily she said it. By the end of that week, I stopped wearing the earrings entirely. The mornings steadied. Not perfectly, but noticeably. That was when denial stopped being responsible. I took them to an independent materials lab under the pretense of metal allergy testing. I didn't tell anyone, not my daughter, not my husband. Waiting for the results felt like waiting for permission to suspect someone I loved. The report came back in sterile black text: elevated nickel content beneath thin gold plating, trace contaminants consistent with industrial solvent residue, prolonged dermal exposure could produce systemic symptoms. The technician explained it clinically. Manufacturing shortcuts, improper curing times, cross-contamination, not deliberate poisoning, negligence. The receipt still sat in the jewelry box. The vendor name led to a small import company. A week later, I received a call not from the vendor, but from a regulatory compliance officer. Apparently, I wasn't the first complaint. A formal investigation was underway. A subcontracted overseas plating facility had bypassed quality control to meet holiday demand. The batch number matched mine. There would be a recall. The moment I understood, that truly understood, it was strangely anticlimactic. No courtroom, no confrontation, just a polite official voice saying thank you for bringing this to our attention. Authority intervened quietly but unmistakably. The company would issue refunds. A notice would be posted. The facility license suspended pending review. Control shifted not because I accused someone, but because documentation did. That evening I showed my daughter the report. She read it twice. "I didn't know," she said immediately. Too quickly. "I know," I replied, and I did. I believed her. But I also remembered how easily she had dismissed my symptoms, how confidently she had attributed them to stress, how she had insisted I wear them when I once mentioned they felt slightly irritating. "You worry too much," she'd said then. Now she looked smaller somehow. Not guilty, just confronted with consequence. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. I nodded. The nausea stopped completely once I discarded them. The dizziness never returned. The company sent an official apology letter and a refund. I deposited the check without ceremony. The earrings sit in their box in the back of a drawer. I didn't throw them away. I didn't return them. They are evidence of two things at once: negligence in a supply chain, and how easily someone you trust can brush aside your discomfort because it inconveniences their narrative. My daughter still buys me gifts. I still wear them. But when I say something feels wrong now, she listens differently. And so do I. Trust didn't collapse. It recalibrated. The mornings are steady. But I no longer ignore what my body insists on telling me, even when the explanation feels socially uncomfortable. I keep a copy of the lab report in a folder labeled Precautions, not because I expect betrayal, but because I've learned how quietly it can enter a room and how calmly it must be answered.